You already know every line, you know exactly when that scene will move you, and still you hit play again. Not because there's nothing else to watch, but because something inside you seeks that specific movie. That series you've already watched 3, 4, maybe 7 times. Is it lack of time, exhaustion, maybe laziness to choose? Or is there something deeper happening when you return to what you already know? Because you're not just rewatching, you're searching for something. Something that the world out there, with all its novelties and infinite options, can't give you. And maybe understanding what you're really looking for is more revealing than any new movie could be. So take a deep breath. Today we won't judge. We'll explore together what happens when you choose the familiar instead of the unknown. When you come back home, even if that home is just a story on the screen. And in the end, maybe you'll realize that the movie you never stop watching isn't about the story it tells. It's about the story you're living. Think about how many options you have now. Hundreds of platforms. Thousands of movies. Algorithms suggesting what you should like. And in the midst of all that, you click on that movie you've already seen. Again. Seems strange, doesn't it? Never in history have we had so much content available. And still you return to the same place. To that comedy you've memorized. To that drama that already made you cry. To that story you already know by heart. You could be discovering something new, but you're not. And before thinking this is a problem, ask, why does this happen? Because look, when you open the screen and see all those options, something happens. It's not excitement, it's weight. Every new choice carries a promise. And every promise carries a risk. Of not liking it, of wasting time, of being disappointed, of investing emotion in something that won't reciprocate, and your brain, already tired from deciding all day, doesn't want another risk. It wants to rest. Wants something that doesn't require effort, that asks for nothing in return. That's when you go back to that movie. Not because it's the best, but because it's safe. You know what you'll feel. Know it won't disappoint you. That scene will still work, that song will still touch you, that ending will still make you feel something real. And notice the paradox. The more options you have, the less freedom you feel. Choosing among 1,000 possibilities is exhausting. Returning to the known is simple, light, without pressure. Maybe you're not running from the new. Maybe you're just looking for a place where you can stop deciding, where you can stop performing, where you can simply exist without having to evaluate if you're making the right choice. Life already asks enough choices from you. And when you hit play on that movie again, you're not choosing entertainment. You're choosing peace. But it's not just peace you seek. There's something else, something the movie holds that you might not even realize you're looking for. Something that has less to do with the story on screen and more to do with who you were when you watched it for the first time. There are days you wake up and the world seems too loud, too fast, too noisy. The news is heavy. Conversations demand energy. People expect answers and you feel you're holding something that could break at any moment. On those days you don't want surprises, don't want plot twists. Don't want to find out if the character will die or if the couple will break up. You just want to sit and breathe in a place where nothing catches you off guard. And that's what that movie offers. You already know when the funny part comes. Already know when you need to prepare for the sad scene. Already know that in the end everything will resolve that way. And this isn't boredom. This is control. Control over what you'll feel, over when you'll feel it, over how much you'll feel. Because life doesn't give you that control. You don't know when you'll receive bad news. Don't know when someone will disappoint you. Don't know if tomorrow will be lighter or heavier than today. Everything out there is uncertain, and uncertainty exhausts. But when you hit play on that movie, you enter a space where uncertainty doesn't exist. There, you know exactly what will happen, and knowing what will happen is the closest thing to security you can feel right now. It's not weakness, it's survival. It's the way you found to say, I can't handle unpredictability now. I need something that won't hurt me, something that lets me feel without leaving me vulnerable. Maybe that's why you always return to the same place. Because that movie isn't just a story. It's a refuge, a place where you can lower your guard without fear, where you can feel real emotions, but within a safe space. Controlled, predictable. When was the last time you felt you could truly rest? Not sleep, rest. Stop analyzing. Stop anticipating. Stop protecting yourself. When was the last time you could simply feel without having to defend yourself from what comes next? Maybe that's what the movie gives you. A rest. Not from the world, but from yourself. from the constant effort of trying to control what can't be controlled. And when you hit play, you're not being lazy. You're being kind to yourself. You're saying, I don't need to face anything new now. I can just exist here where I already know how it ends. But there's something more, something that goes beyond security. Because it's not just any movie you rewatch. It's that one, always that one. And the reason isn't just what it makes you feel today, but what it made you feel before, when you were still someone else. In another moment, in another life. You're not watching the movie. You're going back to that couch, that house, that version of you who didn't yet know what would come next. When you hit play, it's not the screen that lights up. It's a memory. And that memory isn't just visual. It has smell, temperature, weight. You remember where you were sitting, who was beside you, what you were feeling that day. In that phase, in that life, you no longer live. And it's strange because the movie hasn't changed, but you have, and every time you rewatch, you're measuring that change, testing if you're still the same person, if you still feel the same, if you still laugh at the same joke, if you're still moved by the same scene. Because look, there are movies you watched when you were starting something, a relationship, a job, a new city, and that movie became marked in that moment. It's not just entertainment, it's a time marker, a frozen piece of who you were. And when you return to it, you're not looking for the story. You're looking for yourself, the version of you who still had hope or fear or excitement, the version of you who hadn't been hurt that way yet, who hadn't lost that, who still believed in that. Maybe you missed the movie, but the truth is different. You miss who you were when you watched it for the first time, and there's something painful in this, because sometimes you rewatch expecting to feel the same, and you don't. The joke isn't funny anymore. The scene that moved you now seems distant, and something confirms itself. The change happened, not the movie, you, and that realization hurts. It means you lost something along the way, lost that innocence, that lightness, that way of seeing the world that made you laugh at that or cry at that. And you don't know exactly when you lost it, you just know you did. But something else happens. Sometimes you rewatch and feel even more, understand things you hadn't understood before, see layers you hadn't seen, and the discovery is clear. It's not the movie that changed, it's you. You grew, matured, and now you can see what was always there but you weren't ready to see. And that hurts too, but it hurts differently, because it means you evolved, that you carry more experience, more depth, more capacity to feel complex things. So every time you rewatch, you're doing an archaeology of yourself. You're unearthing who you were and comparing with who you are. And in that comparison, sometimes you find loss, sometimes growth, but you always find truth, because the movie is just a mirror, and what you see in it isn't the story, it's you, in different versions, in different times. And maybe rewatching is the gentlest way you've found to not completely forget who you once were. But there's a line, a very thin line between using something as refuge and using it as a hiding place. Because look, sometimes you rewatch because it does you good, because it calms you, because it gives back something the day took from you. And that's healthy, that's care, that's you saying, I need a moment where nothing demands more from me than I have to give right now. But sometimes you rewatch because you don't want to face the new, because the new scares you, because the new might disappoint you, challenge you, show you something about yourself you're not ready to see. And then repetition stops being rest. It becomes avoidance. And the difference between the two is subtle, so subtle that you yourself might not notice when you cross that line, when what was refuge becomes prison, when what was pause becomes paralysis. Think about it. How many times have you wanted to watch something new but couldn't? How many times did you open the list, scroll for minutes, and in the end, return to what you already know? Not because there were no options, but because no option seemed safe enough. And maybe there's the sign, the inability to choose the unknown. The idea of starting something new generates more anxiety than curiosity, and the realization arrives. You're using familiarity not to rest, but to avoid. Avoid feeling, avoid growing, avoid discovering that you've changed so much that not even what you loved makes sense anymore. Because there's fear in this. Fear that the new won't understand you. Fear that the new will demand a version of you that you don't know if you can be. Fear of investing emotion in something that might abandon you, disappoint you, show you that you're not as strong as you think. So you stay in the known, because the known doesn't abandon you, doesn't disappoint you, doesn't test you, and it seems safe. But safety isn't always freedom. Sometimes it's just a cage with walls painted with memories. And I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm not saying you need to force something you're not ready for, but I'm saying it's worth noticing. Noticing when you're resting and when you're hiding, when you're protecting yourself and when you're limiting yourself, because life, however difficult it may be, still asks one thing from you: movement. Not constant movement, not rushing, but movement, growth, change. And sometimes staying stuck in the same place, even if that place is comfortable, is just a slow way of stopping living. And maybe the movie you rewatch endlessly is telling you something. Not about it, but about you. About what you're avoiding. About what you're afraid of losing. About the version of you that you don't want to let go, even knowing it no longer exists. So ask yourself, not with judgment, but with honesty, are you returning to that movie because it calms you, or because everything that isn't it scares you too much? There's something primitive in repetition, something that goes beyond logic, beyond conscious choice. It's as if the brain needs rhythms, patterns, things that repeat so the world makes sense. Think about children. They ask for the same story every night, the same book, the same song. And it's not because they're dumb or limited, it's because repetition calms them. Knowing what comes next creates a sense of order in a world that's still too big, too confusing, too unpredictable. And maybe you never stopped being that child. Maybe you still need stories that repeat, endings you already know, moments where nothing surprises you because you already know how it ends. The difference is that now you don't ask someone to tell it. You hit play. And when you do that, you're not just watching, you're performing a ritual, an invisible ritual of reorganization, of returning to center, of anchoring in something that doesn't move while everything around you changes too fast. See, rituals have always been about this, about creating structure where there's no structure, about repeating gestures, words, actions that tell the brain, here you're safe, here you know what to expect, here nothing will catch you by surprise. And rewatching the same movie is a modern ritual, not religious, not spiritual in the traditional sense, but deeply necessary. The world out there no longer has rituals, no longer has clear beginning, middle, and end, no longer has predictable pauses. It's just speed, chaos, change. So you create your own. Return to that movie, always at the same time, always when you feel the same thing, always when you need that same sensation of returning to the safe place. And it doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. The function isn't to discover something new. The function is to confirm that something remains, that that scene is still there, that that line still touches you, that that ending still brings you that specific sensation of conclusion, of closure, of temporary peace. It's like coming home after a long day. You don't come back because the house is new. You come back because it's yours. Because there you can take off the mask, can stop performing, can simply exist without explaining why you're tired, why you're sad, why you need silence. The movie is that. It's the emotional home you visit when you need to stop pretending you're okay. When you need a place where they don't demand growth, productivity, change from you, where you can simply be without judgment, without expectation, without pressure. And maybe that's why you can't explain it to others, because they ask, why don't you watch something new? And you have no logical answer, because the answer isn't logical, it's visceral, it's primitive. It's an internal call that says, return to where you know it's safe, and you obey, not out of weakness, but because you know, even without fully understanding, that this repetition is holding you together in a way that nothing new could hold you right now. And then something happens, something you didn't plan. The movie's lines start appearing in your mind. You quote characters as if they were real friends. You use scenes as reference to explain what you're feeling, and you realize that that story stopped being something you watch. It became something you carry, because there are movies that don't stay on screen, they enter, occupy space inside you, mix with your memories, your thoughts, your way of seeing the world, and you can no longer separate where the movie ends and where you begin. That line the character said becomes your line. That decision he made becomes your reference. That way he dealt with pain becomes the way you try to deal with yours. And suddenly, you're not just rewatching. You're revisiting a part of who you became. Because look, the stories we consume aren't just entertainment, they're lenses. They're filters through which you begin to see life. And the more you rewatch, the stronger that lens becomes. The more that way of seeing the world solidifies inside you. And this isn't innocent. This shapes you. That character who faced fear teaches you to face yours. The one who lost everything and started over shows you it's possible. The one who loved and was betrayed helps you understand your own pain, not consciously, but deeply, silently, inevitably. You absorb that, and that becomes internal language, becomes personal narrative, becomes the story you tell yourself about who you are and how the world works. And the reason you can't let go might be here. Letting go of the movie would be letting go of a part of you, a part that was built with those images, those lines, those emotions. And you're not ready to let go. As long as the movie exists, that version of you also exists. That way of feeling, of thinking, of reacting. And rewatching is a way of keeping that alive. Of not forgetting who you were when that shaped you. Of not completely losing the person you were before everything that came after. But there's something else. The fact that you chose that movie. Among thousands, you chose that one. And that choice wasn't random, it was recognition. You saw something on screen that was already inside you. Something that needed to be said, shown, validated. And the movie did that. It took something confused, undefined, painful inside you and transformed it into image, into words, into story. When you rewatch, you're returning to that moment where you felt seen, where you felt understood, where you realized you weren't alone in what you felt. The movie didn't change you. It revealed you, and every time you return, you're checking if that truth is still there, if that part of you still breathes, if that feeling still lives somewhere inside your chest. And the answer is what scares you. Sometimes you return and feel everything again. This confirms you haven't changed that much, that pain, that hope, that fear are still alive. Other times you return and feel nothing anymore, and this confirms you lost something along the way, that version of you died, and you didn't even notice when. So the question was never why you rewatch, but what you're really looking for when you hit play again. And the answer isn't simple. It's not just comfort. It's not just nostalgia. It's not just fear of the new. It's all that plus something you never named. It's the need to know that something remains, that in a world where everything changes all the time, where people leave, where plans fail, where you yourself are no longer who you were, there exists something that doesn't abandon you. That movie hasn't changed. That story hasn't disappointed you. That ending hasn't betrayed you. And somehow, strange and deep, this calms you. It means not everything is loss. Not everything is impermanence. There's something you can revisit and find exactly where you left it. And you need that. Everyone needs it. A place to return to. A story that doesn't demand you be different, better, stronger. That accepts you exactly as you are. Tired, confused, still processing everything that happened. See, the world asks constant movement from you, asks evolution, asks that you move forward, overcome, grow. And it's right, you need to grow, but you also need to stop. Need moments where you're not going anywhere, where you're not becoming anyone new, where you can simply be who you already are, without guilt, without rush, without pressure. Rewatching gives you that, gives you permission to not evolve for a few hours, to not search, to not improve, just exist in a space where nothing about you needs to change for you to deserve being there. It's not regression, it's not escape, it's maintenance. It's the way you found to not break, to not completely exhaust yourself, to keep something inside you intact while everything out there demands you adapt. Transform, reinvent yourself endlessly. So stop judging yourself for this. Stop thinking you should be watching something new, reading something different, always seeking the next experience. Peace isn't always in novelty. Sometimes peace is in repetition, in the known, in the predictable. And the movie you never stop watching isn't about what it tells, it's about what it holds. Memories, versions of you, feelings you don't want to forget. Every time you return, you're not wasting time. You're honoring something, you're saying this mattered, this shaped me, this still lives in me, and as long as it lives, you'll return. Not because you're stuck, but because you chose to keep that. Because you decided that that story deserves to be revisited, that that feeling deserves to be felt again, that that version of you deserves to be remembered. It's okay. It's more than okay. In the end, you're not rewatching the movie, you're taking care of yourself, in the only way you know how right now, in the way that works, and that's enough. So before you go, let me ask you a question. Don't answer now, just let it echo inside you over the next few days. What's the movie you never stop watching? And what does it give you that the world out there can't give you right now? Think about it, really. Because the answer isn't about the movie, it's about you, about what you're looking for, about what you're protecting, about what you're afraid of losing, and when you discover it, maybe you'll realize that rewatching was never about repetition. It was about recognition, about validation, about keeping alive a part of you that the world insists on erasing. If this journey touched you, if it made you realize something about yourself that was invisible, there's much more to explore. Because this pattern of seeking the familiar, of revisiting what you already know, doesn't just happen with movies. It happens with relationships, with choices, with the way you build your life. And understanding these patterns is like gaining a map of your own internal functioning. It's like finally seeing what has always been guiding your decisions without you noticing. In the video on screen now, we'll dive deeper into another invisible pattern that shapes who you are. Something you do every day, but never stop to question. And when you understand it, you'll see your own mind in a completely new way. Click now, because this journey of self-knowledge doesn't end here, it's just beginning.